Last night there were electrical problems. They fixed it on time. We need a one-track mind when it comes to Dhamma practice. Let's make our objective clear. We practice to liberate from suffering. We don't practice for merits or prominence. We don't practice for fortune. We practice to liberate from suffering. That is our life's work. Buddhism is a field of study that provides the solution to the question, what is the cause of suffering? What do we do so that we don't have to suffer? That's all Buddhism answers. It is similar to other fields. Like medicine provides solutions about how to heal the sick, other fields find solutions to the subjects within their scope. Defense departments work on how to win battles. All fields have their own objectives. The objective in Buddhism is what to do to no longer suffer. To no longer suffer, we need to know what the cause of suffering is and eliminate it. We can't eliminate suffering. Suffering is the consequence. We eliminate the cause. If there is cause, there is effect. The cause of suffering is wanting or craving. The process is ignorance, then craving, then clinging. Ignorance is not realizing the Four Noble Truths. Craving is the desires of the mind. Clinging is attachment. These three are defilements. They need to be eliminated. Some folks are naive. They believe we start by jumping in to calming meditation and Vipassana. Just develop mindfulness and wisdom, and one day enlightenment will follow. Enlightenment won't occur. We won't have completed all our duties. We have 3 jobs to do. The first is to quit misdeeds. The second is to develop wholesomeness. The third is to make the mind clean and clear. If we think we can do Vipassana without curbing our wrongdoings, that we can get away with doing harm, that we can do some good, some bad, it's like pouring water into a leaky pot. Doing good is like pouring the water in. Performing misdeeds makes the pot leak. We can never fill that pot. We keep pouring and pouring. After a while, we tire and stop pouring. All the water we put in empties out. If we keep doing good and keep doing bad, it's just like pouring water into that leaky pot. So we must quit everything wrongful and cultivate everything good. Not just be aware of the body and mind. If we haven't completed all the conditions, true freedom from suffering will assuredly elude us. Defilements of all kinds are what cause suffering. If we don't eliminate them and do their bidding, everlasting suffering will be the consequence. Firstly, we eliminate 5 evils. The 5 precepts that we are familiar with, it's not so easy. Some folks undervalue them. They think it's too simple, not essential like Vipassana is. It's not easy to stay moral. At first, we must deliberately refrain from the 5 types of sins and misdeeds of body and speech. 5 issues. The first is not harming the lives of people or animals, not physically harming any beings. The second, we don't bother with anyone else's possessions. The third is, we don't bother with people others love. These are the important things for people: their life and body, their possessions, their loved ones. If we harm or bother people, we create enemies. Happiness and peace will elude us. We'd be on the alert and paranoid about possible repercussions. Such minds are antsy, anticipating danger. Do we think such minds can meditate? Not really. Without morality, mental training falters. Without mental training, wisdom is not possible. Without wisdom, no enlightenment. The teachings of the Buddha are complete, comprehensive, and logically sound. The fourth precept is to not bother people with our speech. The first three are harming others by our actions. The fourth is regarding our speech. The fifth is the most important. No alcohol or addictive drugs. Here we are harming ourselves. Not harming others isn't sufficient. We can't harm ourselves either. Refraining from the fifth allows for mindfulness and comprehension. Lifestyles that involve addictive substances and drunkenness inhibit any potential for mindfulness and comprehension. High on drugs, or ice, or whatever, mindfulness and reason is forfeited. There will be no shame. Unabashed, there is an appropriate restraint. Group marriages and such things happen. If drunk or high, all the precepts go down the tubes. Lacking the fifth precept, the likelihood of breaking the rest goes way up. Keeping to the precepts, at first, it is deliberate. We decide to refrain from these 5 unwholesome behaviors. Then try to be mindful. When the mind has defilement arise, immorality can follow. All harmful acts arise out of defilement. So let's notice when defilement enters our heart. When we see the defilements, they can't manipulate the mind. We won't break a precept. Automatic mindfulness will take effect. Some people are naive. They believe morality is transferable. They break a precept and then ask for new ones from monks. Some monks break their precepts and believe they are free when they report it. This is foolish and makes our mind weaker and weaker. Weak minds lose the fight against the defilements. We have to train to be strong and vigilant. Beat the defilements. Don't let them take over us to the point of breaking a precept. Goodness, our morality, mental training, and wisdom. Keeping moral is part of our goodness. Samadhi is our mental training. It's all about training the mind. It isn't about sitting or walking in meditation. Those are postures and formalities involved in samadhi. It is the mental training that is essential. There are 2 types of samadhi. There's a relaxation type, calming the mind with an object. And there's the stable samadhi, training the mind to be the knower, awakened, and blissful one. Training the mind to relax in one spot is called Aramanupanichan. We find an object of meditation that pleases the mind. We meditate with a pleasing object. Happy with putto, we putto. Happy breathing, we breathe. Happy walking, then do walking meditation. Maybe watching the body, walking, makes your heart content. Some are happy sitting. These are just postures. What's important is at the mind. Peaceful or not is at the mind. The secret to getting a peaceful mind quickly is observing what type of meditation object the mind is happy to be with. Some people use the in and out breath, but aren't good at it. Yet, they really enjoy their Buddhist chanting. They enjoy it every day and can keep going without thinking about anything else. The mind can get peaceful this way. Some people chant lazily, but they love the Buddha. They love their teacher. They think about the Buddha and their teacher many times per day. I learned with Luangpu. I loved and respected him dearly. I can't even count how many times a day I thought of him. Certainly not just once a day at evening chanting. I thought of him regularly throughout the day. I knew when he wouldn't be happy with what I was doing, or what to do that he would praise. Whatever I did, it was as if it was under his watch. My heart felt content and comforted, feeling I'd never be an orphan. I felt like a child with caring parents watching over me, sitting in the shade under the loving tree, happy and peaceful to be under their protection. Protection from what? From wrongdoing. When I was young, I meditated on the in and out breath. Then after I connected with Luangpu, I think of him all day. I think of him again and again. When a defilement occurred, I knew he'd disapprove. When wholesome, I knew he would commend it and encourage me to continue. Thinking of him, I'd be self-observing concurrently. It wasn't just for the fun of it. Thinking of him, I'd notice when defilements appeared and when wholesomeness did. That's how I practice. However, contemplation of the Buddha, Dhamma, or Sangha provide only shallow meditative states. Sometimes I desire deeper states and would do other meditations, like the in and out breath or body contemplation, body hair, nails, teeth, skin, tendons, bones. The meditation would go deeper. Breath meditation can arrive at form jhanas. Metta meditation, if we are moody, practice metta frequently. When the mind is attending to the feeling of metta and joyous, it can enter formless jhanas. Not all meditation objects lead to equivalent meditative states. Contemplating the Buddha or Dhamma, or our Master, it will achieve moments of samadhi. At most, the mind may sustain slight attention at the axis level. Diligently repeating Putto isn't Buddha contemplation. It is a mantra or chant. Chanting can keep the mind from straying. It calms down. Buddha contemplation is thinking about the Buddha's exemplary qualities. Dhamma contemplation is thinking about its exemplary qualities. Sangha contemplation is thinking about those of disciples. Death contemplation, we think about morality. Giving contemplation, we reminisce our generous deeds. Using thinking, we achieve short moments of samadhi, but it is sufficient for Dhamma practice. We must see for ourselves what meditation brings happiness and be with that one. The mind is a child. If it has an object, something it is pleased with, it entices it to not misbehave elsewhere. It is where it likes to be. Like kids that like to play games, they sit and play and don't run off. They stay in the house. That's how to practice calmness samadhi. It's easy. Know yourself and don't follow others' way. When people hear that I used to breathe for calmness, they start using the breath. But most aren't successful at it. It's not easy stuff. It's the original object and the most common. Mindful of breathing is so broad. It covers all the foundations of mindfulness: body, feelings, mind, and dhammas. It can be used for samadhi alone. It can be used for vipassana too. One can meditate deeply on the breath, and upon exit, develop wisdom observing the body. One can meditate deeply on the breath, and then develop wisdom in jhana. One can meditate deeply on the breath and transition to psychic development. It is very broad indeed, but it isn't easy. Peace won't come just breathing randomly. We can't be sure what will happen. We may just get motionless, dull, and stiff, without any fruitful states. There is no need to use an object at the level of mindful breathing. Some Abhidhamma teachers say that mindfulness of breath is the object of a great one. A great one is a Buddha. Siddhartha Gautama was our great one. He used mindfulness of the in and out breath for samatha. The Buddha didn't enlighten from being mindful of the breath. Many people think he became the self-enlightened one as a result of mindful breathing. He practiced mindful breathing to make the mind stable, to the fourth jhana. The fourth jhana is the highest the breath can take us. Once in the fourth jhana, he inclined the mind to contemplate truth. It was wisdom practice by way of the Dhamma foundation of mindfulness. He saw the Four Noble Truths and condition arising. The enlightenment was with the realization of the Four Noble Truths. Enlightenment from mindful breathing. He was skilled at breathing for many lifetimes already. If we are skilled at mindful breathing, then let's do it. Buddhadasa taught 16 stages of mindful breathing in accordance with the sutta. Most people can't pass the fourth stage. At the fourth stage, the breath ceases. That doesn't mean we don't breathe. It means the mind lets go of the breath and uses a vision of light instead. The mind moves to deeper, subtler levels of peace. There is no breath at this point. If we are skilled at watching the mind, we may enter formlessness from there. Most of us can't make it to the breath ceasing. Once the breath starts to wane, we get scared we'll die. Has this happened to any of us? As soon as the breath starts to fade, we get startled and quickly take a deep breath. Like a rabbit gasping for air, afraid of death. No one has ever died from mindfulness of the in and out breath. Even those who try to kill themselves by holding their breath, it doesn't work. At most they faint, and then the body continues breathing. No need to fear death from breathing meditation. It's impossible. Stay focused. Don't worry. You're not going to die. If breathing meditation doesn't work for you, then select something else. Bhutto, or Samma Arahan, or Namapata, Putang Saranang Kachami, or any other chant. Chanting is easy. Nothing fancy, no miracles. Bhutto, Putto is nice and safe. If our mind enjoys Putto and we repeat it continuously, the mind gets peaceful. It doesn't stray elsewhere. That's how to practice calmness samadhi. I've taught how to practice stable samadhi. Use whatever object you like or are used to and alter the approach. Instead of inclining the mind toward the object, have it as the background and observe your mind. If you're used to the breath or Bhutto, then do that. but we don't attend to the breath or putto. Staying with the object, that is calmness practice. Breathe or putto, and observe the mind. If the mind moves here and there, observe that the mind is restless. If the mind moves toward our meditation object, like we are breathing and the mind slides down to the abdomen or clings to the breath, observe it has done so. Use the same object as you always have, just change the perspective. If you use putto to make the mind peaceful, instead use putto and notice the mind that wanders off to think of other things. And also notice when the mind sinks into putto, we change from knowing the object to knowing the mind. We'll achieve stable samadhi. In the past, when I'd go and learn from the masters, each one would talk about the knower mind. They wouldn't teach me to just keep breathing input and out toe, and one day wisdom will appear. They spoke directly about the knower mind. Whether putto or breathing, when the mind strays, know so. There are two kinds of straying. One is straying out mindfulnessly to other places. The other is straying in to stick to the object. Knowing the straying is how the knower mind arises. I'm expanding on the master's teachings. They said the knower mind is required. It is the knower, awake and blissful. It is the natural state. It is luminous, but not pure. That's what they taught. We require the knower mind. But they didn't say how to achieve it. I figured that out. Actually, I had achieved it since childhood. Practicing back then, at first, I'd meditate until the breath ceased. Light would appear. I would follow the light to see other realms. They were inner visions that can fool us. After a while, I got scared. I may see ghosts. I was afraid of ghosts as a kid. When I would meditate on the breath, I'd remember a point where the mind felt dreamy. Light would come, and I'd follow it. So then when brightness appeared, I would stay mindful and not let the mind go out. Eventually, the body and the world would disappear. Only the mind remained. When the mind withdrew from the state and the body returned, the body was seen as something that was observed. So was the whole world. So were the happy, unhappy, good, and bad feelings. As soon as things are sensed as observed, the observer mind arises. Because the knower mind and what it knows arise together, let's train to achieve the knower mind. An easy way is since we are sitting now. Lacking the whole process of deep samadhi, let's do the easy way, the shortcut. Right now, we are sitting and breathing. Can we sense that? The body is sitting. If we can sense the body sitting here is observed, the body breathing is observed, the knower mind will happen by itself. Because who is the one that knows the body is sitting? The mind is the one that knows. Who is breathing? And who knows this? The breather is the body. Who knows the body is breathing? The mind is the one who knows. The mind and body separate from each other. If we are able to separate the mind from what it is knowing, the knower mind arises. If our mind wanders and then we know so, the wandering falls away and state of knowing arises. The body is sitting. We see that. It is known. The knower arises just the same. It is the same type of knower that comes with deep meditation. We are sitting now. Come to sense that. We are breathing. Sense that. Then we get itchy and scratch. See the body is scratching, moving. The mind is the one that knows. You may train this way. Walking meditation, see the body is the one walking, and the mind is the knower. The knower will arise just the same. But this knower will not stay strong like the deep meditation. The knower from deep meditation can last up to 7 days. I'm not talking about when we're sleeping. When we wake up, the knower is awake and stable again. But it dwindles in no more than 7 days, and we have to meditate again. Instead, we just know the body is moving. We know from moment to moment. It works. Just that is enough. We don't need to enter jhana to achieve the knower. If we are skilled practitioners, we know that anything can be a meditation object. We can switch on a dime. It's analogous to Chinese martial arts movies. Once they are the true masters of their art, their sword is wielded from their heart. They don't need techniques and postures. What is in them and in us practitioners comes through the sword. Let's build up our abilities inside from training. Know we are breathing. Know when we are standing, walking, sitting, or laying down. Know when we are happy, sad, good, or bad. Happy and sad arise, and we see they are things that are known. Good and bad states are known. Who knows? The mind does. Just having the knower, the aggregates can be distinguished. Separating aggregates is the starting point for insight. The texts call this the Nama Rupa knowledge, wisdom that can distinguish physical and mental. Body or Rupa sits. The mind or Nama observes this. Body or Rupa walks. The mind or Nama observes. Training in this way can really work. Once we are skilled at it, we will see the world is comprised of the knower and then all that is known. Technically speaking, there is only the mind and objects. Mind and objects arise together. If there's mind, there's object. If object, there's mind. What enables awareness of objects is mind. No mind, no object. If the objects are physical or mental, observing them with the knower mind that arises moment to moment, we can develop Vipassana insights. It's not hard to understand. Some said the other day I taught too much worldly Dhamma. It was too easy. We want deeper stuff. I've been teaching deep stuff for so long. Can we do it yet? Can we really? Wanting to learn deeper Dhamma without sufficient practice doesn't get us anywhere. When I first started teaching, I taught right to the heart of the practice. I taught to watch our minds. Some of the masters pressed me. You are teaching non-monks too deeply. Just morality and generosity is difficult enough for them. Don't bother with samadhi and wisdom. From my view, I was a non-monk and had samadhi, and the monks taught me to achieve the knower, and then develop wisdom, to see the arising and falling of objects. I learned with a great master, and he taught me deeper Dhamma. Luangpu Put even, he was the one who instructed me to teach. Luangpu Put was my third teacher. My first was Ajahn Pauli. I learned mindful breathing from him. The second was Luangpu Dun, and the third was Luangpu Put. The first time I went to Luangpo Phut was right after Luangpu Dun. That day was the first time I met each of them. February 6, 1981. I stopped to see Luangpo Phut in Korat on my way back from Luangpu Dun. Luangpo Phut taught mindfulness in daily life. They each taught in different ways, and I put it all together. Train yourself each day, and don't neglect your practice. Gradually, your morality, samadhi, and wisdom will progress. Luangpo Phut taught, stand, walk, sit, lay down, eat, drink, act, speak, and think. Mindfulness knows. When standing, walking, sitting, and laying down are known, there is the knower mind. He taught us to achieve the knower mind just in his own words. Luangpu Dun said, by thinking, you will never know. Stop thinking to know, but this requires thinking. We think, then we know so. The knower mind arises. Luangpo Phut taught, stand, walk, sit, lay down, eat, drink, act, speak, and think. Have mindfulness that follows it. The body does all of those except think. The mind thinks. Have mindfulness that knows. The body is known. The mind knows. The mind thinks. The mind knows. Once we have the knower mind, the practice gets easier. Our main issue is we don't have the knower mind. Only the wanderer mind and the focusing in mind. What good can the wanderer do? It acts from defilements unwholesomely. The focuser, it can do good, but wisdom won't occur. The focuser mind is interfering with the objects and the mind. Interfering with the mind, like watching the breath and focusing in on it until it disappears, or holding to the light and meddling with it, or focusing in on the mind itself, holding it still, or holding it aware. Wisdom won't arise. The knowing and the object it knows needs to be apart. The thing that is known moves and changes. The mind knows. As the practice progresses, we'll see even the mind moves and changes. It is the knower, then it is the thinker, then the knower, then the looker, then the knower, then the listener, then the knower, then the scent smeller, then the knower, then the taster, then the knower, then the stable mind, then knowing the body, then moving towards the body to know at the tactile sense. The mind is a knower, then lost thinking. Keep watching, and you'll see the mind arise and fall, the knower arise and fall. Do what I taught today. Stop misdeeds, develop goodness, stop misdeeds with mindfulness. Don't succumb to the defilements. Develop morality, samadhi, and wisdom. Finally, enlightenment will be attained. Practicing Vipassana without samadhi isn't really Vipassana. The mind will be out and scattered. Practicing wisdom without morality isn't possible. That's the devil's tactic. Defilements tempting us to do wrong. Come on, just do it. They find ways to get around the precepts. A mind that is soiled like that can't progress. It will stay where it is or get worse and worse. We are out of time. That's all for today. End of transmission.